Yes, good morning, everybody. So I just got to stand up a bit here so that so yeah, just very quickly going to introduce ourselves here, and then obviously we'll go through the whole school slide quickly just for there. So my name is Ashley Robbins. I'm the secondary vice principal, so I look after the student experience really throughout secondary school, and obviously the really key transitions are 6 into 7 and like 9 to 10 state GCSEs and obviously into A levels, etc. This is my well, it's my third year here at the academy, and I've been with GEMS for 5 years. I've been in Dubai since 2008, so I know the kind of Dubai framework and Dubai schools very well.
Hello, my name is Paula Finn and I am the primary vice principal. I've been at the academy since it opened in 2013, so I'm going into my 10th year here. There's been a lot of growth in that time, and I've been in education for about 15, 16 years. We didn't actually mean to coordinate our outfits today, so please ignore that when we're talking about uniform. Quite embarrassing this morning, showed up dressed the same. So we are going to go through pastoral care this morning, and I just want you to know that despite everything we're saying right now, the first 2 weeks of this school year are all about making your children feel safe, welcome and happy. And that's whether they're returning to us from last academic year or whether they are children that are new to the school. So we'll go through some of those bits and some of the wider things that will happen around sort of routines and things over the year.
Yeah, thank you. So I think it's very important that the first reference to say is that, Wellbeing does run throughout the school. So no matter what age your child has come into school, obviously the curriculums and the teaching and the pastoral things behind it run throughout it. Obviously, those are traditional things that happen. So there might be calendar days, so things like Mental Health Awareness Day, which will be a national and international things like International Happiness Day, all the kind of key calendars, and obviously they vary throughout the school, from more dressed up and informal things it might be in primary and FS, to obviously secondary, actually learning about the science behind why some things but Wellbeing runs throughout the curriculum really in school. One thing we're really keen for in work here at the academy is relationships. There's loads of relationships that happen in schools. So obviously there are teacher to teacher relationships, parent to teacher relationships, pupil to teacher relationships. Schools are really social places. And again, depending on your own experiences in a school, like my school was very rural and was really the centre of where we grew up, and everyone would do pick up and drop offs and have their little gossip and things like that before school. Those relationships are still the same. And obviously, what we try and factor into school is how do we promote that throughout school? How do we make sure that the triangle relationships works for everybody? You tend to get, if there is a breakdown in any relationship, that's when something really affects the pupil. So if your relationship with us has broken down, if a teacher's relationship with pupil has broken down, those are things we just need to repair throughout the year. Now the key, just going to introduce a few other key people that are not here. You might know Miss McCulley already. Miss McCulley has been, I think it's the 9th year here. She's a PE teacher. She teaches whole school. So again, if you have, you might have done a tour with her, or if you've got friends here, she teaches in primary and secondary last year. She is our secondary vice principal. So again, she looks after the pastoral care. She line manages our heads of year team and the form teacher team. And that is where most of the curriculum, most of the relationships are built, most of the bonding happens. She is our line manager of that.
So we also have Miss Georgina Bradley. Georgina last year was overseeing pastoral care, but she was also responsible for our Key Stage 1 heads of years and things. This year, we've really tried to strip back Miss Bradley's role to make sure that she is looking at pastoral care as her main focus. So if there are any sort of things that crop up throughout the year from FS, so from the early years right through to year 6, Miss Bradley might be sort of getting involved in that. If there are any issues where you think your child is experiencing any anxiety, or there's something sort of at classroom level, you would obviously go to the classroom teacher first. That's the person that can help you, and that's the person that works with your child every day. If we think that we might need a bit more support, we would get the head of year involved, but also if we think a senior leader needs to get involved and start investigating that a bit more to give that child the support, Miss Bradley will be the person that steps in and make sure that everything is running well across the school. Everything that we're going to talk about this morning, Miss Bradley and Miss McCulley will really be overseeing that. So they will be checking in with teachers, heads of years, to make sure that everything we're about to tell you is really consistent across the whole school.
Thank you. And yes, we do also have two whole school counsellors, just important to mention here, so Miss Johnson and Miss Hughes again. So they work across a range of pupils depending on what potentially assistance is needed, but your pupils will be seeing them in and out of class, and again, break times, lunch times, etc. What I would like to sort of highlight around this is that there is quite a structure of pastoral care. So as you say, for secondary, for example, obviously myself and then Miss McCulley, then every year has a head of year that then form teachers beneath that. So there is quite a layer of care that happens throughout in secondary school. I think what Miss Finn said is really important to factor in is that that school can be a turbulent journey for some, again, friendships when you first move to school and things like that. And it is really important to keep your class teacher, your form teacher up to date with it, because they have the reference of what happens every day, every morning, every lunchtime, every break time. So they're really the key people. And then, as I say, depending on which support is needed, depending on what help is needed by the people, depends on who assists that. So I think that's a really important thing to highlight. Do you want to talk about the uniform?
So we have, as you know, a uniform at the academy, and it's really important that children adhere to this. Mr. Cooper has been doing a lot of training over the last week with the staff, and one of the pieces of research that he picked up on was there was an experiment where adults were given sort of white coats for the day, and half of the group were told that that white coat was a doctor's coat, and half of the group were told that it was a painter's and decorator's coat. And at the end of the day, after they performed lots of different tasks and activities, surprisingly, the people who had been told that they had the doctor's coats that day performed much better on those tasks. This year, we are going to be quite strict around the uniform at the academy. That's been sort of creeping in for the last few years. So we do need to be very strict, and that goes right down to the hair accessories, the socks that the children are wearing, because we want every child to feel and look their best in school and that they're ready for learning. If you've got one child sitting in a class who's wearing a hoodie jumper, who's not got the correct uniform on, straight away their sort of mentality towards their teaching and learning may be affected simply by the clothes that they're wearing, okay? So there is a uniform guide that has gone out to all parents. Please check your junk email boxes in case it's gone in there. The parents can request that again at any time in the year if you need it. So we have the uniform for FS and years 1 to 4. It includes the little dress. From year 1, we have the tie. The tie must be worn every day from year 1 right through to secondary school. So the girls have the little crossover tie option and the boys have the long tie option. In the primary school, the boys can wear shorts or they can wear trousers. In the secondary school, we don't have the shorts option. They would wear trousers. Girls can wear skirts across the school, and there's also a skirt option further down. For any parents with nursery children, we just have the items shown with the blue polo tops and the skirt or the short option there. Children must have plain black shoes with no other colours on for their normal school days, and they must have plain white trainers with no other colours for their PE days. Socks, black, white or navy. Hair accessories, black, white or navy. We are not allowing wheelie bags this year. A lot of parents will ask why. It's so much easier, they can wheel them along. They're actually a real health and safety risk, and we've seen children almost being dragged downstairs backwards because of wheelie bags and things. So it's just a blanket ban on wheelie bags, I'm afraid. You will get the Wellington bags from the thread stores. Alternatively, in secondary, the children can choose a black or a navy plain bag, which may suit their needs better. So in secondary, we've got a slight difference in the uniform, just with the shirt.
Yeah, I'll just pick up a couple of things there for secondary. So the same sort of principles matter. The uniform is a really key one in secondary, and it is one where we just need everyone's help with it. So again, depending on what school your child's at before and their uniform policy and even, culture of that school or country come into it. Trainers is a bit of a classic debate, actually, and it's one of those things that, why in secondary do you keep, making sure they're wearing shoes and things like that as opposed to trainer? It's all to do with psychology of learning. So when you leave this today, or when your child comes home from school today, probably the first thing they would do is take off their shoes. Actually. And that is actually sort of signifying in their mind the fact that their work is over for the day and they can actually rest now, or leisure time, recreation time. So if they're coming to school in trainers, it automatically the mind associates the fact with leisure and fun and recreation, not actually learning. So there is actually a psychology that comes behind it as well. And that echoes in anything, when you are going to do running, you as a parent will put your running trainers on, or, when you're going out, you'll probably put a different pair of trainers on, things like that. So it all comes through the psychology of learning. We are a science of learning school. So any of those, I call them critical non-essentials. Okay, so these are things that you might not think matter, but really matter in the overall scheme of things. So things like, shoes and trainers is a classic one that always gets thrown around education. There is an evidence behind it. Secondary school, the colour on the shirt is slightly different than you would get from the threads. It is a kind of a lighter blue. The rest of it is completely the same. Sixth form have professional dress, business dress. So if you are in year 12 and year 13, you will have a suit for the gentlemen and business dress for the ladies. If they are in any of the performance squads, so we have lots of talented sportsmen here. I think we've got 19 national level swimmers, for example. They actually have a completely different uniform. So they are the only ones that will be in their tennis outfit, football outfit, or swimming outfit. So it's a completely different sort of look for them. The bags thing also comes to us in secondary, as I said. One of the things you often get asked as a leader, especially when you come new to school, is that the expectation to come home from school with 50 new textbooks and loads of syllabuses that they need to read throughout the year, and a really heavy bags that pupils have to take between things. That doesn't really happen anymore in education. Obviously, most curriculums are online. There's no need for us to give home 50 really heavy books and to transport to lesson to lesson. And obviously people have lockers in secondary as well, which help with this. So those kind of things you can see, and we'll talk about later on where your child is in their curriculum, but we'll talk about it a little bit later on.
So the PE uniform is available from foundation stage 1 onwards. Again, if your child's in nursery, there's no need for the PE uniform. So the PE uniform, you'll notice, has a different colour on the shoulder, as do the school bags. That is linked to your child's house colour, and we'll talk about houses a little later on. In case I forget to mention it, the nursery children do not have houses, okay? So the PE uniform is pretty consistent across the school. So attendance and punctuality. Now, Ashley's going to talk to you about the importance of punctuality in just a moment, and attendance. So we have lots of different timings across the school depending on the year group. We have a bit of a stagger at the end of the day to try and alleviate the traffic and help parents with pickup time. So the doors open every morning at 7:15. If you want to avoid the traffic, I would recommend that you get here between 7:15 and 7:30. Most of our volume of traffic comes between 7:40 and 7:50 each morning. So if you're struggling or you want to avoid that traffic, there are some days when I'm doing the primary cover rota, and if I come in at 7:10, 7:15, there's not a single car on the road. So if you want to avoid it, get in early. The doors are open from 7:15. It gives your child a really nice, relaxing start to the day as well. It means they get to chat with their teacher, their class teacher, or their form tutor, and settle in and get ready for the day. There are also activities that we set in the morning for children. So if your child is not getting in until 7:50 each day, they will be missing some opportunities for additional learning that the teachers are doing during that soft drop-off time. So all children in secondary must be in school for 7:40, because they will then go and they go to their form time, and there are things in the form time that they must hear and take part in. So secondary children, they have to be in by 7:40. They will be marked late if they arrive after that time. Primary and foundation stage students have 10 minutes longer, so they can be in for 7:50. And then foundation stage 1 finish at 12:30. You've got the option to stay until 3 if you wish from week 3. Foundation stage 2, they finish at 1:30. Again, the option to stay until 3 o'clock until week 3. Years 1 to 4 finish at 2:45. And years 5 and 6, 3 o'clock, and secondary 3:10. The whole school, including the nursery, finishes at 12 o'clock on a Friday. Okay. If you are picking up children from multiple year groups, so if you have siblings, please speak to the teachers. Last year we put lots of plans in place to make it much easier for parents collecting siblings. So please don't just struggle with going to lots of different entry points, getting really hot at the end of the day and things. Please speak to the teachers, they can help you with that, okay?
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, similar to the shoe training debate and the critical non-essentials as well, attendance is a really key indicator of progress. We are an evidence-based school, and this is some evidence that came out from the Department of Education in England a few years ago about attendance. So if you look at the kind of percentage stat there, if you had a maths test and you got 95%, or your child had a maths test and came in with 95%, you'd be like, yeah, really happy with that outcome. What that means is across the year, on a 5-lesson day, if you had a 5-lesson day of your week, you would miss 50 lessons of education across the year. If you miss 17 days in education, so if you are around that 92%, you miss 17 days of your education, that the research says you will drop a GCSE grade if your attendance comes out like that. So it's really important throughout school, from primary into secondary. Again, whole school attendance is really important. Fairly obviously, the greater your attendance is, the greater your achievement. We do go through this with pupils as well. Now, obviously, over the last 2-3 years, there's a lot of factors that come into this. COVID, remote learning, close contacts, those kind of sort of things, of course, have massively affected everybody. But it's just really important to reference the factors that you as a parent, that if I am missing, if I'm not in school, I'm missing out. If my attendance is 90% and I miss 100 lessons, there is no way a pupil is going to make that up with, oh yeah, we'll do it at home, we'll help them. Obviously, there's a reason you joined us, and that is the high quality teaching that goes with it. But it's really important that attendance throughout the school. I don't want to get into debates of, like the last few days of term and holidays and things like that. The stats are quite clear. Obviously, as you do go into secondary, you go into GCSEs and A-levels, from year 9 upwards, the coursework boundaries and coursework dates are really fixed. And even there is some misconceptions with parents around, exams and assessments. So we did have parents at the end of last year, when there was a couple of exams, and said, well, I'm actually traveling on that day. Can they take their GCSE another day? And it's obviously, like no, these are worldwide, they have to happen at a certain time. But yeah, I think it's quite important. We do illustrate this to pupils as well, one of the early assemblies, because about their attendance, and their responsibilities to attendance and how it affects. The extension to this on the research there, say from the Department of Education in the UK, is if your attendance is over 98% through your journey of secondary, so from year 7 to GCSEs, the evidence was you actually earn over £500,000 dirham more in your lifetime as an adult. So again, as you get better grades, you tend to, as a result, get better jobs as a result. So attendance is something which we monitor here, and it's very key for everybody. Housing, I just want to talk about housing structure. So again, you would have been allocated a house colour, and that will affect things like your uniform, and obviously your PE uniform, depending which colour they are. In primary school, they are mixed. So you will be in a class with all 4 houses. So you might have 5 or 6 pupils in each house in your class. In secondary, our tutor groups actually aligned in the house. So you'll either be in 7 Pearl or 8 Onyx, for example. Again, the reason behind is the evidence behind linear tutor groups. So we can get more peer support things going, more house competitions going, and more again, critical non-essentials of how pupils learn, the competitive element of education. So in secondary, we've actually changed it from last year to vertical tutor groups. So we do have a house system that goes through it. these aren't just a traditional, sports day, swimming galas. Of course they're important, but there's math Ken challenges, spelling bees. We like pupils to take ownership over their own rooms, so their form room, having class boards, having, the door as you go in, taking ownership of their own things. So they're much like, their bedroom at home, they would take ownership of areas. There's lots of house competitions that come throughout the year.
So in primary, the children across the classrooms will be mixed in their houses. So there could be children in all 4 houses in every class. So we use a system called Class Dojo to record house points, mainly because the children just love it. There's lots of little sort of aliens and monsters and things and characters for the children to look at and earn their house points. We're being quite strict with the language that we use this year. We're not calling them dojo points. We are calling them house points, so that they are absolutely associating that with the house that they belong to in the school. We don't do any parent communication via Class Dojo. If you've come from another school that uses this system, it may have been that your teacher was speaking to you through that account. That won't happen here. It will just be an in-school system that we will use. So the house points are linked to the high performance learning values, attitudes and attributes that we want every child to develop over their time at the academy. And I'll talk to you a bit more about how we do that in the lower year groups. So we want all of our children to be hardworking. We want them all to be empathetic, and we want them to be agile. We want them to be flexible, to try new things. So when the children are displaying these qualities throughout the day, we are rewarding them for, whether it's hard work, whether it's empathetic. They might have gone to help a friend or done something in the classroom that sort of showed that value. We will be rewarding them through the house point system. We also have a learner of the week. So in each class from FS1 right through to year 6, if you go through to secondary, so through to year 6, we will have a learner of the week. Again, that will be linked to the values, attitudes and attributes. So you will see that your child has been hardworking or empathetic or agile, and that will be on sort of a weekly basis. One child will be awarded that certificate, and the teachers are quite specific about why they have been awarded that to encourage that behaviour. We have house captains across the school. Your child might be interested in being a house captain, which they can sort of apply for this year. The house captains will go around every week and they will collect the house points, and then the children find out the winning sort of house each week. And then at the end of the term, the winning house will be rewarded with a special day or special activity. Lower down the school, it's quite difficult for children to understand words like agile. So we have our learning zoo. So in foundation stage 1, foundation stage 2 and year 1, you might hear your child coming home saying, Miss Piper said I was a slinky linky snake today, and telling you why they were a slinky linky snake because they were making links in their learning. So we've tried to link each of those values, attitudes and attributes to these animals. You'll see a lot more of these animals popping up across the year. We're going to get stuffed toys made. We're going to get little wooden figures and things made to make it a bit more accessible for those younger children. And they do use this language even in FS1 classrooms, which again is sort of showing metacognition with the children, thinking about how they're learning and what they're doing well. In years 1 to 6, we also have a traffic light system. So sometimes, as we know, I'm sure you all know as parents, children don't always display the behaviours that we would wish from them. So if a child is maybe not displaying not making the correct choices, it may be that they have to move to amber on the traffic light system. If they continue to make sort of not the best choices, they may have to move to red. There may be some time where if they're going out for break time, they might have to spend a few minutes doing what we call restorative justice, which is where they speak with an adult about what's happened and sort of talk through how they were feeling. We know as a school that behaviour comes from something else. Children just don't sort of make poor choices for no reason. It's always because there's something else going on. So it's really about trying to get to the bottom of that and support the children really quickly. We're doing a lot of work with the heads of year and the teachers this year to make sure this is really consistent across year groups. So in one class to another class, it should be the same sort of things, the same reasons why children are maybe moving to amber. We would want the children to then correct that choice and move back to green straight away. And we'll be really encouraging that with the children. This is sort of a fallback on system. The house points is always the first port of call in promoting that positive behaviour everywhere we go, in the corridors, when they're working, even at home time. We're constantly promoting and rewarding and praising that positive behaviour.
Thank you. Yeah, so for secondary, we have a system called Go for Schools, which is really embedded in our system. It's been here forever. It's quite powerful for a number of reasons. So everybody has access to the live data. So you as parents, pupils, and obviously us as teachers. So Go for Schools is our platform where basically everything goes onto it. So house points go onto it. So again, if you've been awarded a house point for being agile or hardworking, or what the value is. And then obviously the opposite side, if there is a sanction that has to be put in place, which is at the tier that it needs a behaviour point, that goes there. So as a parent, you can see live how they are getting. Similar to primary school, in terms of we have, the first attention should be the positive. So we are obviously trying to catch good pupils doing good things rather than the opposite. So it's the same kind of sort of structure and trying to reward what we want to see. So for pupils, these are really important because they give you tickets. Like things like rewards days at the end of each term. We do kind of larger, sometimes off-site trips, to reward pupils that have hit criteria for house point. There is every 2 weeks we do a values one. So again, that's more of a low stakes kind of like reward system. They go to the head of year office and spin a wheel when they get a kind of reward from the heads of year. So on teachers, we aim to do about a minimum of 2 house points per lesson, as I say, and then they are all based on HP attributes. What we find sort of quite important again is just the communication behind it. So again, if there has been a sanction, if there has been something we're not so happy with, that the teachers given that will give some communication to you of the reason why. Obviously, something like homework, it's fairly obvious. While if there's a homework being sent with hand in a deadline, then why they have got something like a behaviour point. Again, we do have head of year heroes, which get emailed out and also goes on social media as well, and then sort of tutors as well. Not quite as sort of formally as primary. Also identify people who've got the most house points in a period of time. That could be a week, could be 2 weeks. So again, just because you had a poor week last week, for example, does not mean that I cannot get recognition and a reward next week. Other thing that's really important to the parent, everything goes on here. So you can see live their attendance, as I spoke about before. So, if you're hitting that threshold of 98% and above consistently, then it does go down into your house points. And then it also goes into subject mark books. So you as parents can see live their current data. So you don't need to wait for end of term 1 or end of half term to get how is my child getting on. You can see live, so you can access at any point, app or on the website, just to go and see. I can see their maths grade, English grade, PE grade, history grade, everything. Okay, their mark books also break down the individual bit to that. So you might have, the teacher might have been, there might have been quite a high stakes, formal assessment at the end of a term, which might have quite a lot of weighting, and they might have done something smaller, which is only worth 10% of the final grade overall. What that helps us as education, it's a bit of a different conversation, but that helps us identify gaps in learning. So obviously in secondary school, if we have, you've done all of your assessments, and in term 3, we noticed that, X pupils have done, haven't performed very well in some of their assessments in whatever section it was, then obviously that's when we can revisit work, we can, identify prior knowledge gaps, things like that. But it's just really important because everyone can see it. It's all live, it's all transparent. So you can see daily how people are getting on. Something else we monitor is obviously people wellbeing. This has been brought in from year 4. It came in end of year 4, end of last year, term 3 last year. In secondary school, it's been going for a couple of years now. So we monitor our people's kind of wellbeing. As you can see, this is a live data. This is in key stage 3, so kind of years 7, 8, and 9, and last year. And I kind of reference this as a little bit of a joke, but I think it's quite key. So as you can hopefully see there, most of our pupils are happy or calm. This is a 2:30 check-in, so just before you would pick them up. So as a parent, if you pick up a happy or a calm child, and I've got 2 children here in primary school, as a general rule, I'm quite happy. Okay, obviously, if I'm picking up, there's one child there that was angry and 13 that were stressed, for example. If you pick up one of them, then obviously, you're always going to ask why, and then, like say, you might want to then, refer back to the form teacher. But so this is just a demographic of most of our pupils are happy and calm as they leave the building. Obviously, secondary school does become, growth hormone, testosterone, things like that. There is the natural progression of, pupils growing up that we have to factor in. The kind of unofficial term that we like to sort of say in secondary is that nobody goes home unhappy. So if a pupil has on here said, 2:30, I am angry, that would be picked up by one of the pastoral teams before it comes home to you. So with the form teacher, counsellor, head of year, like assistant principal, myself. So someone would have had a conversation about it. Half the times, it went more than half the time. Most of the time, people is angry is that at football at break time, year 7, something's happened in break time and their team's lost or someone's fouled them. Most of the time, it is nothing major. It is always those, kind of play things that are really important to pupils, and the perception of how it looks is very different. But yeah, as I say, that kind of runs throughout the school, and it's really helpful for us to monitor. The older ones, you can actually do evidence-based courses around time management, stress management, anger management. So if there is a pupil that we have identified, or the counsellor has identified, or they've even come to us and said, look, I get really anxious when it comes to assessments and exams, we can actually do like their 10 hours behaviour training. So pupils actually run the course themselves. You can do it as a parent, you can do it as teachers here, and obviously that helps them, hope identify those gaps. Passing to worry boxes.
And just before we leave the upstrive bit, we actually do this with teachers as well, which is really useful. Because if we've got a teacher who's anxious or worried about something, we need to know about that and be able to support them, because we don't want that sort of coming in front of the children. So we have worry boxes across the primary and the secondary school. So from year 1 onwards, we have little green worry boxes in the corridors, and children can just pop their notes if they've got any worries into the worry box. They are then sort of collated. If children can either do that anonymously, or they can put their name on it. If they put their name on it, it will be addressed by a member of staff straight away. If they do it anonymously, we can bring up whatever that concern or worry is across curriculum time in that year group, and also in the assembly to try and help that child with whatever that worry is. If the child had put their name on it and we feel that that's something the parent needs to know about, we would definitely contact you to have a meeting about that worry. In secondary school, we also have worry boxes, but instead of it being sort of paper-based, the children can do that online. And again, the counsellors would pick that up, their form tutors would pick that up, and we would address that concern straight away.
Thank you. Yes, so there is obviously from the government, from KHJ level, lots of drives to get wellbeing, again, for everybody, parents, teachers, and lots of pupils. So there is something called the PASS survey, which pupils do in school. This is, again, all Dubai schools have to do. It's not just us. This is something that the government put into it. It's called a PASS survey. So this measures people's feelings about school. It gives us pastorally lots of insights to how pupils are feeling, and as you say, all the kind of headlines are there. So it gives us data on attitudes of teachers, general work ethic, attitudes for attendance, and preparedness for learning, and things like that. It's really important because it helps us unpick people that we think are happy, but they might not have shared with us or you or anybody that they are unhappy, and then obviously we can tailor things around that. So again, if it is, as Ms. Finn just said, then things that we need to put in curriculum lessons, or it is assemblies, or it is small group workouts and things like that, we can put them in. We do track this over time. So obviously since they have started in Dubai schools, and our trends are going upwards, which obviously want to encourage. But it's really interesting to see some of the breakdowns. A couple of years ago, I'll give it a secondary example, is that one of the ones we had that actually went down a tiny bit in secondary was attitudes to teachers. And obviously it's something we kind of pride ourselves on a little bit, is that we think that teachers get on really well with our pupils. It didn't go, it went down like 2% or something like that. And in secondary school, we only had about, I think it was 4 teachers that left that summer. So again, as a leadership group, we are like, teachers must be quite happy if they stay, for example. Teachers can move to home countries. So we didn't have many teachers leave, and so we're a little bit worried about why is the pupils' attitudes to teachers going to And there's actually just a bit of a knock-on effect from COVID. Pupils worked out that they could learn wherever. So some pupils actually preferred learning at home on their own rather than coming into school, for example. So some of the things that come out of it, when you really drill into the data, come up with some quite interesting things. But all pupils in school from year 3 up to the past.
We actually do it from year 1. I'll just talk
cool.
Yeah, so we do the PASS survey across the primary school. We do that from year 1. Obviously, in year 1, when they're answering the questions, sometimes they might not understand the wording of the questions, and the teacher will sort of take that into consideration. If we feel that something has come up in that survey that you need to know about, again, we would be in contact with you to discuss that. We also look at what's called masked learners. So we do have some learners across the school. We would probably find this from about year 4 onwards, where they're scoring really, really high in tests. So when we do assessments, they're getting top scores, but when they're filling in the PASS survey, their confidence is not there at all. So actually, we need to really put something in place to sort out that child's confidence and to get their confidence where it needs to be, because otherwise their assessment grades might start to fall if they are lacking in that confidence. So it gives us quite a lot of information that can be really useful for teaching and learning as well as wellbeing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, there's an annual Dubai Student Census Wellbeing. This takes place around February time. So again, all Dubai schools do this. Last year, we sent for secondary a group of pupils to another school who actually sort of went through the data themselves and talked about the pupil leadership opportunities. What do pupils want to help other pupils with, throughout school? So there is another kind of again, Dubai-wide sort of census that happens, which we monitor and look at the results. Other things which happen, so the pastoral team here, it might be counsellors, might be heads of years, it might be leaders, are running monthly kind of parent workshops similar to what yourself are going through. And again, some of them might be leading into something. So if when it comes up to something again in secondary, like your mock assessment timetables for GCSEs and A levels, we deal with some, help parents with anxiety, how to identify anxiety at home, things like that. And obviously just things like if they come up, social media concerns that the parents might have, understanding, parent guidelines and how to, make sure children are safe online. So we run monthly workshops throughout the year. Again, some of them are targeted for certain year groups and some of them are very general.
So while your child is here at the academy, we want them to be the happiest. We want this to be the happiest place for them. And there's ways that you can help with that as well. So when you see us in the corridor, you'll see us very animated with big smiles, saying hello and good morning and holding doors for people. If we can all do a bit more of that as a school community, again, that will be really rubbing off on the children and make this a much happier place to be. Okay. If you have any questions about anything pastoral, again, the first port of call should always be the teacher, but please know that we have all of these staff on hand to help with pastoral care across the year.